Hi again guys, and welcome to the last, and for me, kind of also least, to be honest, of all of the cars in 1.50, and this one is of course the facelifted version of the Toyota 86. Not a bad car by any stretch, it's got a decent amount of power, decent amount of weight, good performance for what it is, and it's pretty cheap as well. Across the board it's a very pleasant little sports coupe. It's just not a car that I find particularly exciting, or even interesting for that matter, but what can this one do? How does it compare to the others? Well, this isn't a rivals match, so we're not doing straight up comparisons of numbers, but in a general sense, it is exactly what you'd expect it to be, which, as I said of course, is a very pleasant, capable, small, cheap sports coupe. It's just under 32,000 credits, it has a 2-litre engine, of course naturally aspirated, 204 horsepower, so a little bit more, 156 pound-feet of torque, which is fairly low, but again not too surprising, and the weight is of course still very good at 1,240 kilos, which is incidentally exactly the same as the Maverick RX-7 from this same update. In terms of performance though, I will say, and this is something which fans of the car will probably like to hear, I do believe it actually feels better than the existing 86 variant. At least, of course, in the street form. I'm not talking about the race car, but in the street form, the regular one is again a good little car, but this one to me actually feels a little bit more focused. The handling and the cornering is a little bit sharper, a little bit more on point, and as I said, a little bit more focused in particular toward the track. And of course, considering the purpose of the game, that's not exactly a bad thing. It's kind of all about circuit racing, for the most part at least. Now, there's not really anything that I can say about this car that you haven't expected, experienced, or already heard. It is another 86, so I'm not going to try and sugarcoat this review to say, oh, this one is so amazing, it's a revolutionary new evolution of the 86 lineage. You know, this isn't an Apple commercial after all. I'm going to be honest about it, and I have been. Now, if that means that this review doesn't end up being like the usual 7 or 8 minutes, then so be it, because it's a car that offers everything you want and need it to do. Don't go into this expecting it to be anywhere near as exciting or as competitive necessarily as any of the other cars in the update. However, for lower classes, N100, N200 in particular, and of course try higher classes at your own risk, that goes without saying, it does everything you need it to do. But I will say, and this is probably the most positive thing I can mention about this car, if you do want one of these variants, the street variants of course, not the rally car, not the Group 4, if you want an 86 or a Subaru BRZ, this is probably the one to go for, because it's the newest, it's the sharpest, it's the most freshly updated, and if you want to go newer, then this is the obvious choice. For me, I still prefer the Subaru. Overall, I do quite like the BRZ's looks in comparison to the other two. For performance though, of course, they pretty much break even. This one's a little bit different, but the existing ones I'm talking about. And the great thing about the 86 platform, be it the Subaru, the Scion, the Toyota, this new one, or the older one, regardless, because the underlying DNA is the same in all of those cars, you expect and also get certain things from the vehicle. Being the spiritual successor to the A86, you'd expect it to be a good little drift car, good through corners, that's true, check and check. The performance, not so strong. 200 horsepower isn't bad, but of course in a game that features roof CTR3s and Maverick RX-7s, it's never going to be the fastest thing out there, so don't expect it to be and you won't be disappointed. Now this car I think will probably get some pushback from some players. Some players probably won't even watch this review because they just don't care about the car, and I totally understand that. I get where you're coming from. This is the classic parody almost of the Honda Fits being added to the game, that kind of thing, or back in the day of course all the Skylines and RX-7s. Now this I will say not so much, it's not like this is just an exact rip-off. The Scion would technically be closer to a needless clone than this is, but at the same time I can understand the argument. When there are so relatively few cars added per month, choosing one like this is a little bit underwhelming, especially when you got it up against the cars that I mentioned, like the Jag and the Roof, which are genuinely awesome cars. And of course opinions vary, but still the idea behind them is very cool. This one though, it's the normal approach. It's that one car that we generally get in every pack that's much slower, much more modest, much more affordable, which ain't a bad thing for beginners, but like I said, go into it with the right expectations and the car will deliver on them. Go into it expecting this to be a small supercar, or even remotely close to how good the Supra is, and you're going to be disappointed, because it isn't even trying to be. Overall then, check out the car if you want to maybe update your 86 collection, or if you already like using those and want to try a newer one, well, in that circumstance, chances are you probably already have anyway, but if you haven't been back to the game and want to try it out, then sure, give it a look. It's not exactly a lot of cash to spend to see if you do like it. Overall though, that's it for this particular review. I will be doing a tune for this car, and incidentally, in case you were wondering, now that we've covered all 5 car reviews, yes, over the coming days on the channel I will be starting the tuning side of things, beginning of course tomorrow. So stick around for that, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.